Great. Okay. There we are. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Shiatsu therapists all over the world. Welcome to another week and another episode of Everything Shiatsu. Hope you all are doing well. It's a little cloudy here today after a week of sunshine. I'm excited to have another great guest all the way from Germany. And we have an exciting topic for you, Shiatsu and developmental theory and paradigm and program that Karin from Germany has created. Welcome, Karin.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for having me there. It's great to do it. And to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about my German English, but I hope it works out.
That's okay. Your English is beautiful. We're going to be slow and we're going to be careful with you too. Okay.
Good.
So just to have everybody know that we have gone live on our group, if you can like and throw some hearts and let us know where you're from, which country you're from, that'll be great. That helps always with the algorithms. But let's start with a question that I always ask my guests, because I am curious and others are curious about how you started your journey with us, with Shiatsu therapy.
So it's already a long journey. I started middle of 70s. And I'm a physical therapist. And at those time, this was what we called here in Europe, the human growth tendency. We were interested about movement, about development. And this is why I studied physiotherapy. And I was very disappointed because this was not what I expected. And since I'm young, I've had interest to Japan. I don't know why, it's just Japan. So both came together, the Japanese interest and the interest about therapy. And then in our little village in South Germany, where I come from, I met at those days a Japanese woman who knew Shiatsu. And nobody else here in Germany knew what's Shiatsu. So the only chance to learn more was to go to Japan and to learn it. This is how it started, and this was middle of 17th, so this means more than 40 years ago.
Must have been an exciting time, and it was an exciting time all over the world, and Shiatsu just started to spring the wings. And from what I remember, you also started, were you involved with Aikido also?
Yes and no. So my colleague, I was working long years together, she's an Aikido trainer. And I did just for hobby. So I'm not very professional. It's just, I love the movements. That's it.
Got it. And who were some of your teachers?
Since I'm so long in this topic, there are a lot of teachers, of course. But let's say, of course, my basic foundation comes from Namikoshi. This was my beginning in Tokyo.
Yep.
And then I was very lucky. And then I got a job in this was called Kurhaus, that's a German name, and this was placed in Tokyo. And there I worked for a long time. I had the chance to work there, and I had the chance to study there also, to work and to study. And there I met one of my colleagues, Fujiwara sensei, and he was already starting to work with meridian development and development. This is how I got interested. And then when I came back in the early 80s to Germany, of course, I did courses with Ohashi like everybody at that time.
Yes.
But, I'm so lucky before Corona, we really stay every autumn in Japan because I'm teaching in Japan and I'm living in Japan part-time.
Yes.
And so I met a lot of teachers. And one was Professor Munakata. Professor Munakata is from the Chiba University. And they developed a health preventive program for schools, let's put it that way.
Amazing.
And this is they offered special movement programs for elementary schools, and additionally like a coaching program for older students and adults, which is based on the 6 Keraku. So the 6 keraku are the, I think you know the term, is the linked meridian, like the arm and the leg meridian. And he had a concept about how to say it in English, like reaction patterns of this 6 keraku.
Yes.
And this is a movement program and a coaching program. So this was one teacher where I got very interested in development and movement. And another, Professor Michel, he was the president of the Kyushu University. And he is specialized for the history of traditional Japanese medicine. And he built up a lot of museums about traditional Japanese medicine and did all the scientific research about the history. And this gave us a lot of inspiration because I really learned the difference between TCM and TJM, how we call it.
Yes.
And really to understand that this is not the same.
Yes.
And really understand the roots of all the things we are doing and how we look at a person, and especially how we look at children. And how we look at children in older days in Japan was very different than it was in China, and then it's today. So this was really like personalities. So
can you give us a short example? I'm so curious about, because you had a unique perspective of really understanding both and seeing the difference. Can you maybe just give us a short example of what will be a difference?
So since my main topic is children, so in China was more the idea, in the case of acupuncture, you hold a baby and they get the needles, and if they cry, this is good for the lung meridian to develop. So in Japan, they looked very different at children. They would never do this, So the children, they really looked as not as little adults, but as really own personalities. Yeah, and therefore this is why in Japan they developed very different techniques for treating children, like the shonishin, which my husband is doing. So they're very different techniques. They are non-invasive. You say non-invasive?
Gentle. Yeah, very gentle.
And we had a lot of, so shiatsu was not there at this time because the term shiatsu was not there, but like the ama, which was before.
Yes.
So we had really techniques we still use today, treating the mother and the baby for attachment. So Ota Sensei wrote a book, 17 something, about the importance of attachment, of course, with old Japanese terms or sentences, but it's exactly the same technique we are using today. So there are a lot of differences, and since the samurai tradition, they really looked into the body much more than they did in China. So they knew a lot of anatomy, of physiology. And this was already very early combined with the meridian thinking.
Beautiful, beautiful, so fascinating. And when did your interest around development and children in particular, when did that take shape?
So, because I was interested about development and how we become who we are, how we develop our movement patterns and our posture. Of course, one day you start with children. And the main point was 1980, they started a big European project for health prevention in schools. And at this time, this European government, this was a teacher training that they were training teachers about health prevention in schools. And this was paid by the European government.
Yep.
And at this time, we were asked if we would be part of it with movement and touch. And this was the very, very beginning of the Samurai program. And there we started, and this was 1988. And then we saw how the development of children was changing more and more. This means, that they didn't reach their milestones.
Yes.
So it was clear when we work with elementary school students, we saw a lot of problems are coming from the earlier time, from the baby time.
Yes.
So this is how we started the Baby Shiatsu project. because we saw, if the parents want to do the best for their children, but more and more there's not so much support from a big family. So they look at the internet, they read 15 different books.
Yes.
So this, they just don't know what's the best. They want to do the best, but they just don't know.
Yes.
So it was very important to start. Maybe one example. One example is we observed in school suddenly that the children had big problems sitting upright. So they were sitting like this, the head like this.
Yes.
Yeah. Then they really got the concentration problems. Or they started to move all the time very strongly like this. And then they got the label ADHD.
Yes.
And if it's bad, they got also Ritalin or Medicaid, the medicine.
That's right.
But so my husband, he's a pediatrician, and we are teaching a lot of pediatricians here. And even 80% of the pediatricians say in the meantime that ADHD diagnosis, that 80% of the ADHD diagnosis is wrong. Put it this way.
Wow.
This is what we know. And one point is what we observe. So, and there you can see now this combination of Western and Eastern thinking. So many babies are not anymore laid on tummy time, on the stomach position like this, because of the fear of the sudden infant death.
Yes.
So in the clinic, they tell the parents, don't let your babies lay on the stomach, but they forget the second part to say, but when it's awake, then put it on the stomach. And this started about 20 years ago, and this we can see now really in school, because only from this tummy time we develop the ability to come in an upright position, to crawl, to come into a sitting position yourself, and to come into the upright position. Only if we have this.
Got it.
So, and when we look now from the meridian point of view, then the point is that when we are born, the meridians are not unfolded, we call it. So this means that these lines we have later are wider areas. For example, when this is later the inner branch of the bladder meridian and this is the outer branch, at the time in the first year of life, this is one zone. And if you look in old Japanese books, even in old Chinese books for children, you see that they really showed here those lines.
Got it.
And this means for coming in the upright position, the later bladder meridian, small intestine meridian, heart, and kidney meridian are responsible for this movement. And the same thing is, if the baby is not laying on the stomach, those 4 meridians can't develop completely. Yeah?
Yes.
And then now we know, okay, those 4 meridians, they're responsible for coming up position. They're responsible for concentration in school. They are responsible for any kind of speech problems, not understanding the speech skills. Yeah, they are responsible for that the child is able to wait until it's my turn. So then we understand when we see those symptoms that this has nothing to do with ADHD, that this has really the cause because those 4 meridians didn't have the chance to develop.
I see.
And in the last 20 years, when this started, that they are not laid anymore in the stomach, we really saw it in the elementary school how this changed.
So is this where you started to create your developmental concept and
Yes.
principles of based on those observations?
Yes. We knew the Japanese meridian concept,
yeah.
But to introduce a method here in Europe, you need some Western explanation.
Absolutely, yeah.
So especially in Germany, Shiatsu has quite often the how to say, the little taste of esoteric. So if we come to school and we say, we are doing Shiatsu meridians, they say thank you and close the door. no way. And
Don't
so,
bring, don't bring the dogs in too.
yeah. And this is, we needed Western explanation, to explain the same thing just from the Western point of view. And then from there later, we could go into the meridians. And this is how the developmental concept started, as the combination of the Western and Eastern view, which we got from Japan.
Can you touch on some of the principles of the developmental concept?
So, like I said, the principle is that when we are born, the meridians are not yet fully developed.
Yeah.
So this means we have areas. And in Japanese, we consider them like that always a group of 4 meridians, work very, very close together. Therefore, this is called uchi, which means like a family, like a house, like a clan.
Yeah.
And so we have on each side of the body, we have 3 groups with the 4 later meridians, and they are responsible for special movement. For example, which is on the front side, they are responsible for finding the center, on the back for coming upright, and great from Katja, and the side is for rotation. So, and this means this is in the first year, and then, that's the point. I've been labeled as ADHD. And then when we come up standing on 2 feet, then the yin and yang flow starts. And this is the beginning of the Keraku.
Got it.
And many Japanese Shiatsu styles, they work on this Keraku level, which is responsible for movement and posture.
Mm.
And so we follow with the children, we follow the meridian development, and we look, for example, if the child is 8 years old, if the meridian development is also up to 8 years, and if not, we need to support here.
Got it.
So this is the idea, and but we use always Western explanations from the sensory systems or whatever. And this is why we teach so many doctors. We have a scientific university certificate, because we can explain it from the other way.
From the nervous system, the brain,
to get accepted.
Fantastic.
And
Go ahead.
For us, so the Japanese idea of development of children is, when we are born, we bring everything we need for the life. So we don't have this, how to say in English,
lack.
We look as a deficiency or lack.
Yeah, we don't have a lack. We just come with everything that we need. Yeah.
So this means every child is born with everything. They only need to get the chance to develop it.
Got it.
And this is, now it's changing here in the Western world also. But before, we always look, there's this diagnosis, this is missing, this they can't do. But we didn't look at what the child is able to do. What is the child bringing? How we can support the child that they develop the things they bring.
Well, it's very similar to Shiatsu, right?
That's it.
Yeah, very
it's based on Shiatsu.
Yeah, perfect. Now, I'm sure many of us in our practices and personal lives have seen such a rise in disorders and dysregulations, particularly not only with adults, but in particularly now with kids. Just the speed of life, like as you said, many parents don't have support or big families, class sizes, technology. Our children are really overstimulated, just as we are, and we live in a very productive oriented society. So everything is busy, busyness is celebrated.
Yes.
And it creates a lot of issues. And I've seen such a huge rise in my own practice. Many parents are struggling, with their kids, and as a family unit, if the family is struggling, it can feel sometimes like you're in a life raft, in the middle of an ocean, and the water is turbulent, and sometimes it feels like it might be sinking. I've seen some horrible examples of kids as they get older, become suicidal, develop all kinds of from eating disorders or mental illness. And it can all start from just having a normal family that is busy, and stress is accumulating, and there's no way to help the kids and regulate that stress or process that stress, and it comes to that boiling point that it can be quite severe.
Yeah.
I mean, what can we do to help our communities more? What can we do to help kids more? How can we help parents more in this touch deprived, especially period that we've been under?
Of course, one point is that we start here at the first year of life. That's the beginning, because this is the foundation for everything. So I go into more then. And the other one is like what we are doing in the school program with the samurai program. Because when you see how many appointments children have nowadays,
Yes.
this is like the manager of a big company. And if you ask them to come to the treatment and this, this is even more time to spend. This is why we think it's so important that we offer those programs in school, and that also the child again doesn't get the feeling, oh, something is wrong with me, I'm not good enough. So if the whole class is doing the program and have fun, yeah, so you don't get this feeling something's wrong with me. So what we are really doing, we are offering here, and I'm very happy that we can do this in the meantime, quite in a lot of clinics where they deliver, we are offering parents baby classes.
Fantastic.
And there we are teaching parents how to do the simple treatments for their babies. Again, with the topic, which the first topic is finding the sender. Because self-regulation starts with finding the sender. And finding the sender is with 3 months, when the baby is laying on the back and bringing the hand and the leg in the sender line together. I hope you can see it.
Yes, we can see it. Beautiful.
Yeah. So this is 3 months. And responsible meridians, the later meridians for this is lung, large intestine, spleen, and stomach.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is many babies are not anymore laying on the floor. They are sitting in this bouncer.
Yes.
And are carried around in this bouncer and whatever. And in this bouncer, you can't develop finding the sender, this milestone, you can't. So you must be flat on the floor against gravity. And only if you reach this milestone, then you learn to calm yourself down. And this is starting around 3 months. And then with 6 months, they reach their feet, and this we call, and then they start to turn, this we call playing around.
That's right, sender. Yeah, they start to roll around, yeah.
Yes, yes. And this is the point where they learn, yeah, if there are difficult situations, how to calm them down, how to regulate their emotions. And children who didn't master this in the age of 6 months can't master this in school. It's impossible. So if you didn't master these steps so early, then you can't tell the child, behave well, I don't do this, because they just don't understand it. Mm. And there's a classical test we are doing. And my husband and me, 4 years ago, we did a big, observational study in a school with 180 children. Yes. In the age of 12 to 13.
Survey. You did a survey.
Yeah, survey, yeah. And the test is, maybe you want to stand up and try it, whoever is there. The test is that you cross your arms here and stand on one leg, and you bring the leg up, so 90 degrees, and close your eyes. And in the age of 5 years, you should be able to stand like this until count 10, and then on the other leg. So this is the test. And this is the test we used a long time here in Germany to see if a child is ready for school. But to do this is 6 months.
Oh, wow.
To be able to do that. And so in this survey, we had about, from the 180 children, we had about 12 who were able to do that.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And this was an integrative school. And of course, then from those children, you can't expect that they regulate their emotion. This means at one moment, emotion goes and the next goes like this. And then this is not the important point, if we lay them down, if we treat those meridians, those 4 meridians were responsible, then they can learn it and they can develop it. But if we try to do it, in a more cognitive way, they can't, because they don't know what we are even talking about.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And
Kids need to learn by experiencing, right?
Yes. And by feeling your own body. Only if you are aware of your own body, if you feel it. And there, and this is, so nowadays, I don't know how it's in Canada, but here in Europe, a lot of research is taking place about the quality of touch.
Quality of touch, okay.
Yes. And this, and they know in the meantime, in the research, when they look in the brain, MRI, that if you do like stroking soft techniques, other parts in the brain are, how to say, firing, active, than if you do our shiatsu pressure touch.
Interesting.
And this is what I really prove in the meantime. And we know, that this is so different. And we know that in the case, if we want to support development, we need this clear pressure from shiatsu.
Wow. And the research has shown that type of pressure is proven to help with development.
Yes. They made in Taiwan a big research with premature babies. And they were just working here with the what we call the front family, large intestine, spleen, lung, and
stomach.
Yeah, those 4 meridians, those area. And those children, they worked with the quality of firm, respectful pressure. They gain more weight. They had a better oxygen in blood. Then if you do what very often parents do, this gentle striking.
Wow, stroking, yeah. Which that's what parents associate with massaging their baby, right? They stroke the baby, they might lubricate with oils. Those parents that know, but they mean massage can help their babies. But the shiatsu touch is much more effective for development.
Yes. Because what they know is that this clear pressure in the shiatsu touch we have is working on the autonomic nervous system, on the parasympathetic. Yes. And this is developing.
It's part of the development.
Yes, and this is why the shiatsu touch is so effective with autistic children.
Yes.
Or with this, what we so-called ADHD children.
Yes.
Because this is nurturing their brain.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's such a big, both a big phenomenon right now, autism and ADHD, and unfortunately here in Canada a few years ago, I don't know how it is in Europe, but the government has allowed for kids from the age of 10, as early as 10 years old, to be medicated. I mean, with Ritalin, like you said, I mean, that's a
Medicaid or whatever,
I mean, those are very strong drugs.
Yes. Yes.
So in a way, it helps the kids focus and be productive, you know.
Yes.
And again,
Exactly.
we live in a productive society. If you're not productive, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
So it keeps them productive, but dependent, right, on this drug, and other behaviors are created from that are a little, you know, on the verge of obsessive compulsive behaviors, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
with autism, I mean, you're seeing also a rise in autism, and I mean, there's all kinds of factors and theories why there's such a rise, but there's so many very little resources for those kids, right?
Yeah. 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 And this is why I think, in fact, we should be so much more working with shiatsu, with babies, children, and family, because we are working now here in our clinic since nearly 40 years, and we can support them so much, and we can help them, and they don't need this medicine. Yeah, of course, if it's a real ADHD, that's a different topic. But all those others who are not really ADHD, it's such a big difference. We can support them, and there we need for shiatsu, how to say, much more recognition.
Yes,
Recognition.
yes,
Yeah.
a lot more recognition, definitely, and a lot more doors can open up that way.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's what I
and
think.
you influence in generations. I mean, my previous guest last week, Mr. Kaneko from California, created incredible videos and DVDs with implementing Anma to kids, doing it on other kids and kids doing it with their parents. And it was so beautiful to watch. And in a way, in our touch-deprived societies, I mean, introducing shiatsu into the family unit can be so powerful.
Yeah, and
That,
this is what we are doing with the samurai program.
yes, wow, beautiful.
Because with the samurai program, we come to the school, mostly elementary school. So normally we come 3 times. We teach the teacher and the students how to do
Yeah.
it.
And the teachers
And
are allowed to touch the students?
no,
Okay,
the students are allowed to touch each other, and the
yeah,
teachers are only allowed to do it in the
like on
yeah,
air, yeah,
yes. And so we made this little story. So this is from all the countries who are part of the program,
yeah,
and each has a name, like samurai warms up in the sun, or samurai meets the tiger. And we
yes,
really pretend this little story. We are samurai kids. So this comes from the Aikido. We bow, and we have to treat with respect and everything. And in this samurai program, we have a special order. So this takes about 8 minutes for each child. And here we really, how to say, support those missing milestones. But
yeah,
they learn to touch each other. They learn some movement. It's a lot of fun. And then
yeah,
we do also so normally we come 3 times, and then there's one teacher's training and one class for parents and children, because we want that this comes home as daily life. And for example, in Austria, in parts of Austria, this is paid, the program, by the health insurance.
that's amazing. By the house insurance?
Health, the
Health
government
insurance,
health
yeah,
insurance.
yeah,
So
yeah,
this means
got
the
it.
schools can order it from the health insurance,
Insurance, yes,
and then they pay this program for the schools, which is wonderful.
amazing, yeah, that's amazing.
This is the hand treatment.
Yeah, large intestine 4 there, yes.
Yeah, but they're doing, they're doing the complete hand.
Fantastic.
And the hand is especially for this area here. This means this is very important for speech problems. Yeah.
Stuttering, yeah, speech
Yes.
impediments, yeah.
Yes. Yes. And then beside of this movement and this touching routine, we have what we call the samurai secret techniques. So these are self-help techniques. So for example, we are bringing a lot of stones, and then every child can choose a stone, and then on the stone we draw the Japanese sign for luck. Can you see it?
Yes.
This is, and then if they have challenging situations like writing a test or a soccer game, then they pericardium 8, they really use the stone before.
So smart.
And then they get what we call the samurai courage.
That's so smart. I love that. That's great.
And and they have this in this little thing, and then and they have this on their table.
Yeah.
And the interesting point is we had one high school, fifth grader, and there are nine parallel classes.
Yep.
And with 5 classes, we did that before every mathematic test.
Yes.
They did the samurai secret for the hand, and they did the ear, because the ear is what we call the children espresso, to wake up.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so they did it before they started to write the mathematic test.
Instead of somebody else pulling their ears, they can pull their own ears.
Yeah, they did it themselves.
Yes.
And then for those 5 classes who did this with every mathematic test, they went 1 grade better than the other one. Not that they became more smart, but they were more calm,
Calm, yeah.
And so this is what we call the self-efficacy techniques.
Yep.
So that in difficult situation, I can help myself.
It's beautiful. And that's what we want to teach them as young as possible, right?
Yes.
What happens when we stress? What happens when we are nervous, anxious, worried, upset?
Yes.
And that's those are the life skills that are not taught to kids, right?
Yeah. And I love it. And if you put it in the samurai story, then we say Japanese, Ohayo gozaimasu, arigato, they love it. And when we have so many different cultures, I guess it's in Canada the same, so many different cultures in the classes.
Yes, yes.
All those kids are fascinated about Japan.
Yes. Yeah, the whole samurai, I mean, it's such a pop culture. It's part of a pop culture now, right?
Yeah.
And you got all these Japanese cartoons and comic books. So yeah, it's part of the pop culture. There's mass awareness around it. Yes.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Some years ago, we did a project for the Save the Children project like this for refugees, and they didn't speak 1 word German, but they could say arigato, konnichiwa. I couldn't believe it. So it was because they also had mangas before.
Yes, that's amazing, isn't it? I mean, I remember being asked by one of my dear patients years ago, is a native chief here in our province. And he asked me, they had a native youth day, and really celebrating native youth in Vancouver, Canada here. And I was asked to come to this conference in this beautiful place, and I was the only non-native speaker.
Oh.
And it was with youth, and my topic was healthy touch. It was one of the most nerve-wracking experience of my life, because first of all, I'm not native. Second of all, in the native community, touch is usually unhealthy. A lot of trauma around abuse and trauma in the native community, both in history, but also in their communities, right? So one of the things to break the ice, because I was so nervous, and I spoke after an elder that after he finished, the room was dead silent. It was quite depressive. So I just made it fun, and I did assume a Japanese character in my mind, and I did an act, and I thought it was so funny, and I got everybody to get up and do a quick shiatsu routine on each other, and that was such an icebreaker, and they loved it.
Yes.
And you saw 120, 130, kids working on each other. You know, it was one of the most memorable experiences I ever had in my life.
Yes.
And that's the
Yes.
power of healthy touch, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that they changed the role model, you know, this pretending being a samurai and like this helps, you know. I never forget, this is some years ago. I was in elementary school. I came first time to the class and the teacher said, oh, this child is autistic child. This won't work with the others. I will work with this child. And then we started with this Japanese konnichiwa and watashi no namae wa, what's my name? And then this little boy, then the teacher wanted to work with this little boy, and this little boy said, I'm samurai, and samurai are not working with teachers. They are only working with other samurais. So this showed, you know, because they pretend to be somebody else, that how they can accept and touch.
Beautiful. I love the smart way of presenting this program. You know, it's really smart to package it that way,
Yeah.
both for the kids and the school board system, because you know it's very political these days in schools. And again, touch, as I don't know in Germany or other parts, but here again, it's teacher. You know, there's so much fear around touching the students these days, touching the kids these days. You know, but introducing it in this way, where kids are touching other kids and working on each other, and
And,
this principles is very smart. You know.
and the point is, because this is a clear routine, you know, it's not that you touch somewhere, it's a clear routine. And this is why we call for everyone, it's an exercise with a name. And this is how this got accepted. What I just wanted to show you
Sure.
is, can you see that?
Yeah, that's seniors, geriatrics. Yeah, fantastic. Seniors on each other, of course. They're so
And
touch deprived too, right?
yes, and this is because one of our school directors, her mother was in a senior dementia home, and she started with this project there, and then we came later into, and there we started, you know, that they work with each other. And this is so wonderful.
It is.
You know, they're even sitting in wheelchairs
Yes, yes.
behind each other. And in German, we say to flirt. Is this an English word?
Yeah, to flirt. Yeah.
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 So, you know, how they suddenly became so lively and started flirting. Oh, I don't need a little kitten, you know, be my tiger, and like this. This was so touching. And then one of these elder men, he said to me, you know, what we miss most is touch. But I can't knock at the next door and tell Mrs. Miller, please touch me. But now I can knock and say, please, Mrs. Miller, give me a hand treatment.
Yes.
And that we forgot how to do it. He said, doesn't matter, but now we are allowed. And you know, since Corona, we are not allowed to enter any senior home in the moment. And we saw with our groups how much they changed from brain activity.
Wow.
And this is so sad. And you know, they were so happy. And this feeling, I can do something good to somebody else. I'm not too old, even I'm sitting in the wheelchair, you know, I can do something good to somebody else, gave them so much, yeah, wonderful feeling.
Yeah, it's very touching. I've been in some of those homes, and it can be quite depressive, even in the best ones. And to give them that ability to touch each other, you know,
Yeah.
again, in a healthy way, in a way that is structured.
Yes.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes.
I mean, I
Yes.
salute you. That's so great, and I hope it inspires, you know, many shiatsu therapists all over the world. If you want a niche market,
Yeah.
you know, working with kids or working with mothers and babies, families, geriatrics in those homes where they're suffering and have been isolated now for a year plus, many of them. That's really inspiring. Now, are there
Yes.
any books that people can get? Any resources?
Yeah. So I just put it. So this is the senior. This is in English. It's
Yeah.
also in German available, or even in Spanish or Portuguese, because in so many countries we are working. This is for the seniors.
Fantastic.
And this is for the school.
Yeah. That's
and this is about the baby shiatsu.
Oh, fantastic. Lovely. So we can find them on your website, all the books.
Yes, if you go on this English website, you find the books, or you find the online. There's a new online course which will be published in Australia about the first year handling.
Yep.
So you will find quite a lot, and so it's so wonderful that in many countries, meantime, the colleagues are going to senior home and schools, and would be great if we are more, especially after the pandemic.
Yes.
We need touch so much more.
People have been traumatized just for the lack of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's and this is the opportunity, and this leads me to the next question. I believe that we are entering a new paradigm, and I see it both on a global scale, and for us shiatsu community, there's an opportunity. One thing that I've experienced with having this podcast of how we can come together, how we can unite together in collaboration, in our resources, and just our shared mission of really spreading shiatsu globally to the masses. And I believe shiatsu is the perfect therapy for today's issues that are always in the tissues. So what do you think? What do you see in this new paradigm that we all are moving through? What do you hope or envision for shiatsu therapy?
So, of course, one point is that shiatsu becomes much more recognized and accepted, especially in Germany. So I know in Switzerland you have a diploma, in Great Britain, in Austria, we in Germany, we don't have. So that it becomes much more recognition. And, I think it's so important that we all work together and share our experience. It's not anymore the time that everybody is doing just a little. So we really should connect and share the experiences if we want to change something. This is so my dream and vision.
That's bravo to that. That's my dream too. Perfect. So I wanna leave some time for people here that might have a question or comments for our guest. So if you do have any questions on our Facebook page, just don't be shy. Just raise your hand, and it's a great time to ask. I mean, we did have in the comments from about her twins, Kachi, I think it was, or was it Emily? Yeah, she was mentioning they've been labeled, her kids have been labeled as having ADHD.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Emily.
Hi. Hello, I'm just outside. It wasn't a question, really. It was an interesting insight that I became aware while listening to you, was that they were born 2.5 months early, both of them, with complications. And so they were laying on their back for 2 months. Yes. I'm a shiatsu practitioner, so I tried my best. But after that 2 months, they did come home with me, but they were delayed a little. And until today, their speech is delayed. They're bilingual, but still both languages are delayed. But their movement, their physical movement is ahead of anyone in their class. So I think the shiatsu really helped them. But I just made the link with you today that it could be possibly the speech related to laying on their backs.
Yes. This quite often happens. So very often we see this problem with premature babies, and especially then laying long on the back, that this meridian group is not completely developing or not so easy developing. And then sometimes, we call this, we get peaks in one area. They're maybe motoric, very fit, but on the other hand, little valleys, And this is the speech problem. So this really means work with the backside. How old are you now?
13. They're old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
So
you know, what we would do then in this case is really you could offer a lot of hand treatment, or they could even do it themselves. Because the hand treatment we use also, especially in schools with children with speech problems, because the hand treatment makes this tongue movement, which you need for pronunciation, for stuttering. And this can happen if you do the hand treatment, that suddenly the tongue is sticking out.
Interesting. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Welcome.
The other thing was, I'm living in the Czech Republic, which is not too far from you.
No.
And I'm just about to enter school next year, teaching English, but I'm going to be working shiatsu with them. And I would like to start convincing the teachers, or at least having some backup scientifically, or, you know, like you say, the language that they might accept. So if there are any journals that you're aware of,
you know, if you go into internet, so in the scientific world, this kind of pressure is called deep pressure touch. And if you go into the internet, there is a wonderful research from the Turkish Medical University. And if you can't find it, Emily, just send me a short mail. Yeah, okay. There's a really great research about it. But if you look for deep touch research or deep touch pressure, you find a lot of research materials.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for adding to the conversation, Emily. And I'm sure your kids there will be so fortunate to have you introducing the principles of shiatsu there. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, though Katja also mentioned if we can provide more scientific research on the meridian evolution to share with us.
In fact, on meridian evolution, scientific papers, they are not so much, because maybe, like, you know, in Japan, research and printing in English is a bit a difficult topic. For example, in Kyoto, in the Meiji University, we are working there in the Meiji University. They are doing so great research about meridian. What is meridian? What is happening with meridians? But nothing available in English.
That's too bad. Yeah, that's
too bad.
Now, what's your opinion around ADHD? I mean, it's you know, it's such a hot word, and you know, a prevalent condition all over the world that have been tagged on kids. From your observation, clinical experience, and research, I mean, it's a whole, we can do a whole webinar just on that. Yes. And maybe that'll be a good one to do in the future, because I see it so much all around. Can you share some of your insights and experiences around that? And as shiatsu therapist, what will be our approach to working with those conditions?
Yes. So, so if it's a really ADHD, then it's difficult with shiatsu, because a really ADHD, they won't lay down. But at the moment, if a so-called ADHD child is laying and asking for pressure, you can be 100% sure this is no ADHD.
Yes.
This is a lack of the deep perception, proprioceptive system. And Western, we would call it proprioceptive system. Eastern, we would say bladder, kidney, small intestine, and heart meridian group.
Got it.
And those children, very typical, those children, they say, I want more pressure, also in school. So if they work with each other, they say, oh, please more. And then the teacher thinks that he wants to tease the other child.
They want to be maybe more aggressive or tease, yeah.
Yes, but they don't feel it. They need the strong pressure.
Got it.
And those children, if you really give them this firm pressure and slow that the brain can digest it, yeah, then these symptoms, these ADHD symptoms are going to change.
Beautiful. And I see also a trend with a lot of kids bedwetting into later age.
Same topic. It's same topic, because the bedwetting, you know, they don't feel inside when their bladder is full and sends the information you need to go to the bathroom. And this is from the meridians, it's the same group.
Interesting. Yeah. And another thing I've seen a lot is, again, kids into a later age soothing themselves with a thumb. You know, we're talking early teens, right? 11, 12, 13, 14, still soothing themselves by sucking on a thumb. Have you seen that too in your experience?
This is always that they try to find a possibility how to calm themselves down.
Yeah.
You know, like we spoke before with this 3 months, that they showing the center is this. Yeah. But before around 8 weeks, they bring the hand to the mouth and suck here, which is the area of the later large intestine 4 here. And this is the start how they learn to calm themselves down. And if they didn't learn it later, you see it here or here. And this is just a strategy to get your emotion balanced.
Yes. Yes, and that's the issue I find with working with a lot of kids over the years. They hold on to those emotions and they're not processed. And you know, then they develop physical symptoms as a result.
Yeah.
You know, and the parents, you know, from anywhere, skin breakouts to pains, and they take them to the doctors, and that can go on for months and months and sometimes years. And all they needed was a little bit of touch, you know, and many of those symptoms just go away because kids respond so quickly, right?
Yeah, immediately.
Yes.
You see if you're on the right hint. Yeah.
And they love receiving shiatsu. They just love it. All the kids, and I have them, you know, from young to teenage, they come over the years, and they all love receiving shiatsu. They just love working on them. Good. Well, thank you for everything that you do and everything that you bring to our shiatsu community and all your experience and inspirations. And I hope more and more will be inspired by your actions and follow through with trainings. I can't wait to have you also in Canada one day.
I hope so, when the pandemic is over.
Exactly. And we need that. We need that. We need to bring that touch to the school system.
Yeah.
And
We need to be more. We really need to be more to work with children and families. And it would be wonderful if this helps to inspire a lot of people.
It does. It does. We'll make sure that it does. We'll make sure to have you back in again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my guest, for showing up again for another episode. Have a blast this weekend. Enjoy yourselves, and love and light.
Thank you so much to everybody. It was great to meet you. Thank you.